Hill in the gun with Hill to his right. Play action to the right. Steps up, throws over the middle. He's got Thornton. Caught it! Junior Thornton. Split. 6. Touchdown. Midway.
Smoaky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on Sikkim 365 Radio. Brought to you by Peters Chevrolet, Bubba's 33, TFNB, your bank for life, and Texas Farm Bureau Insurance.
Hill, right side, finds a seam. Hill, 20. Hill, 10. Hill, touchdown. Midway, no flags. Midway takes the lead by more than one score. And how about the Big Uglies inside?
Now, here's David Smoke.
Well, we're now 3 rounds away. Well, actually less than almost just over 2 weeks away from the state championship week at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Quarterfinal round games for everybody but the Class 1A 6-man schools. They're in the semifinals. And this week, there are some great matchups again. Let's look at what maybe a few intriguing scores from last week. Eventually look at the best games for this week, and there are a bunch. And then today we feature a rivalry that has blossomed in recent years between Grandview and Malakoff, and they meet again in the quarterfinals in 3A Division I. And we'll also touch in with and check in with Glen Rose and Cliff Watkins in that school. They've done a great job in 4A Division II. All right, from last week, just some of the games that popped out at me. One, Carthage and Gilmer. Gilmer last year played for the 4A Division II state title, lost to China Spring. They, of course, have been good now for 20 years. But Carthage has been better than most everybody else except China Spring last year. And Carthage just better. Defense is playing really well. The quarterback in Cup is playing well. They had a little running game last week, 28-7 Carthage. They'll now play Pleasant Grove, another one of those teams out of East Texas that has state championship heritage. That game coming up in Pleasant Grove beat Aubrey handily 37-14. The Aledo game against Midlothian, Aledo's got all those state championships, 10, 5A. They've dominated that classification for a long, long time. But this year they've had to kind of grind through early losses. And they had a great win against Midlothian, who's really good, 27-21. Anna, 27, Salina, 24. Anna's been a great story. They're unbeaten. They've beaten Salina twice. And now they played China Spring in a game at Crowley. And that ought to be interesting. And maybe one of the few teams left that might push China Spring a little bit. But down at the bottom of the bracket, you have Corpus Christi Calallen that's making their run. China Spring trying to win back-to-back 4A Division I this year, and they look like they're the heavy favorite to do that. But Anna has played some good people, has a nice record, and unbeaten, obviously, but they've beaten some good teams. So that'll be interesting, but I still think China Spring has just too much. Newton and Dangerfield in Class 3A. Dangerfield and Newton both have a bunch of state titles. Dangerfield, a lot of state titles. Newton beat Dangerfield back in I think it was in the 90s for a state championship game. They've played a few times, and Newton got them in a low-scoring game, 16-12. One thing about Dangerfield, they got a sophomore quarterback in Chase Johnson, and they've got some Division I players elsewhere, Rogers and Hampton. That could be a team to keep your eye on for next year. Also, and really with Dangerfield almost every year, Argyle beat Grapevine 44-27. Argyle's used to winning, but you know what? This is their first year in 5A. They've made that methodical move, climbing the ladder when it comes to enrollment and classifications. And here they are, their first year in 5A Division II. Nice win. They're in the quarterfinal round as they beat Grapevine. Chapel Hill beat Lumberton 35-23. Okay, if you would have told me that was a score last week, I'd say okay. Lumberton led that game 17-0, but the sophomores, Ricky Stewart and Demetrius Brisbane and others just, man, so many weapons for Chapel Hill. They'll get now a rematch with Kilgore in the quarterfinals. Kilgore, of course, winning their game and moving into the quarterfinals against Lindale, beating Lindale to meet now Chapel Hill. And so those are some of the games I looked. There was a game in 2A. Timpson beat Centerville 41-14. Timpson with what could be Mr. Texas football and Terry Bussey, Centerville is good. They play hard-nosed football. Kyle Hardy's been there a long time. They will punch you in the mouth, but Timpson with just too many players, too many athletes, including Terry Bussey, and they won that game easily 41-14. Now, we're in the playoffs. We're in the quarterfinal round. And there are 4 teams, of course, in each district that make the playoffs. Here's a graphic in Texas high school football history since they went to 4 teams making the playoffs. And, of course, it started out in 6A, and it's moved now, infiltrated into all of the other classifications. 15 times in Texas high school football history, a district has had 3 teams from the same district get into the what is the quarterfinal round. The most recent was 21-6A. In fact, this year, Galena Park North Shore, they're still alive. Atascocita, they're still alive. C.E. King, they're still alive. Now, Summer Creek lost to Katy, and so they're out. So now 3 teams in 21-6A have moved into the quarterfinal round. North Shore plays its own district rival in Atascocita. King has to take on Katy, and we know Katy, of course, is a buzzsaw. That's what's happened in 21-6A. Here's another district with teams still left. It's District 13 4A Division II. Wimberley and Lago Vista both won. They will now play each other in the quarterfinal round. But Navarro and also Gerald with Paul Gould, the head coach there, Marty Murr, the head coach there, that did a great job when he was at Alto. So they're done. Wimberley will now play Lago Vista, all in the same district. They had 4 teams alive in round 3, but because of just attrition and having to play each other, there are now just 2 teams left. So those are a little historical perspective when you've had teams from the same district that get to the 3rd round or the 4th round. And it's awesome to see one district have that kind of strength to be able to do that. One intriguing game for this week that we'll get to a little bit later on is that game between Harker Heights. They're in the quarterfinals for the first time ever. Jerry Edwards, who we've had on this show, great run for them. Rashawn Sanford's having that massive run as the running back. And they play DeSoto this week and would be intrigued. You know, DeSoto, we know who they are. We had Claude Mathis before they lost to Duncanville that same week. But this is great because that district with DeSoto, Duncanville, and when Cedar Hill was really, really good, they just beat up District 12 6A with either Temple or Harker Heights. Eventually, maybe not in by-district, Temple beat Waxahachie a couple, 3 times. But Harker Heights, a very senior-laden team, a team with a great running back and a defense that's very good against DeSoto and all of what they have. That ought to be one heck of a game. We'll get to that a little bit later on in the show. We're about to hear from Cliff Watkins, the head coach at Glen Rose. We'll focus in on the great rivalry that's developed in the last few years. Grandview and Malakoff, they've even played for a state championship before. Grandview's had kind of the edge. We'll have that and more. This is the Texas High School Football Podcast, brought to you by so many great sponsors that you see throughout with the graphics, and, of course, our presenting sponsor, Peters Chevrolet, and my great friend, Randy Peters. Back with Glen Rose head coach Cliff Watkins next on the High School Football Podcast.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Smoaky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on 365 Sports. Brought to you by Peters Chevrolet, Bubba's 33, TFNB Your Bank for Life, and Texas Farm Bureau Insurance.
To me, one of the great stories, and there's a lot of them, every week or every game it seems like, but also this year there are, I wouldn't call this Cinderella. Glen Rose has been knocking on the door with head coach Cliff Watkins for a little bit, and they have been to the quarterfinal round before. They've just never been able to get past it, but it's hard. I mean, it's hard to keep winning at this time of the year or any time of the year, but here they are in the quarterfinals, and we're joined by Cliff Watkins, their head coach, on the Texas High School Football Podcast. I'm David Smoke. Cliff, why this year? Why is this the team that maybe has that ability to go further than Glen Rose has ever gone before?
In 2018, we got here and lost the last second to Iowa Park in the quarterfinals. And this group of seniors were in 8th grade then, and knew it was going to be a good class. And these guys, a lot of them have started for us since they were sophomores, and then had a good sophomore season for these guys. They were a bunch of good seniors. And then last year, when they were juniors, we get beaten double overtime in the second round to Pleasant Grove. And Pleasant Grove goes on to the quarterfinals to play Gilmer. And so we knew we were close. And then we had all these guys coming back as seniors this year, and they've been in some tough games and been in the big games and know what to expect. And had a great offseason, spring, summer, and then they've been ready to. Our motto this year is breaking barriers. That's what they wanted to do. They wanted to go do things that Glen Rose has never done. And now we're here knocking on the door, and we got to see if we can finish the deal.
You have played a good schedule as well. Was there a game this year, a moment this year during a game where you felt like, okay, you knew they were going to be good, but that you realized that, okay, they just got tested, we handled it, we moved on?
There's a couple things throughout the season. Started off against a very good Grandview team week 1 and played well and got the win. And then week 3 or 4, our quarterback Hudson White goes down and misses 3 games, and we lose to Brownwood and with a new quarterback, and he got better as we gone. And we knew we were bigger than one person, and they showed that the way they played defense against a really good Brownwood team on the road. And then we go beat Springtown with our backup and play a great defensive game again and start first district game without him. Then we get him back, and that was kind of a boost for our team. Hey, look what we can do. Doesn't matter who's in, who's out. We're going to go play our best. And now that he's been back, we've been rolling. And then then the first round, we played Graham in the first round of the playoffs. They're a lot better than 4th place team, and we catch them in the first round. We'd already played them once and knew it was going to be a tough matchup for us. And they scored right before half to make it 21-14. And we hadn't really been in that situation. How are we going to respond? Well, we go out and we beat them 34-0 in the second half, and they just kind of took over the game and did everything they needed to do. And so the pressure situations haven't fazed them. And then last week against Hershey, we score right before half to go up 24-7. And we say, hey, we got to get a stop. They get the ball. We got to get a stop and a score, and we can finish this thing. Well, they go score. We fumble the kickoff. They score again, make it 24-20. They're right back in it. We drive. It's 4th down, and we throw a pass. Guy makes a great play down at the 2-yard line. We go score to go back up 31-20, and then score 2 more times after that to finish it off. And so, they've been in those tight situations, and how we respond, well, we know how we're going to respond because they've been in those situations before.
All right, Monaghan's is next. Give me a scouting report about them.
Really good quarterback. Really good quarterback run game. They're going to get a lot of sets and try and get you confused on your run fits, and got to do a good job. They're big up front on both sides of the ball. They've won 10 games in a row. They're in the 4th round. You said a while ago, there's no bad teams left. They're a really good team. They won their district, and they've won 10 straight. And so we got to tackle well and continue to go play the best we can every Friday night.
Glen Rose has been known for what the quarterbacks can do, and I'm not saying it's the only one, but we know at the quarterback, the value at any level of a quarterback. You've had a bunch of guys come out of that school. Hudson White, you mentioned him. You missed him for 3 weeks. He was more of a guy that put up great running numbers, rushing numbers, but he seems to me, am I right, that he's gotten better as a passer and now more dynamic than he's been before? He's not just a guy that's going to break the record with rushing yards in a career or a season, but what he can now do in the passing game.
Very much so. And I think that's one difference in us this year compared to last year. We couldn't win those one-on-one matchups last year when we had to. When people wanted to load the box, we were getting a bind. Hudson's not only gotten better as a passer, our receivers have gotten better and really came up with some big plays. And so, yes, we're going to take what the defense gives us. And it helps that he has came along as a passer, and our receivers have stepped up and made some big plays. He's thrown 25 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. Very smart with the ball, knows where to go with the ball and gets it out on time and can make any throw. And so I think that's a big difference in our team this year from last year offensively, is being able to throw the ball when we have to step up and make those plays.
Your resume, you went to Breckenridge High School and also Tarleton State, but one of the things I noticed is schools where you have coached before as either on staff or as a head coach, Cisco, great history. Stephenville won a state championship on that staff. Midland Lee, we know what they, not the same now Midland legacy, but still the history there. And then Eastland, where you were there as a head coach, and now what you've done at Glen Rose. It seems like you have found places that it rubs off on you and vice versa. How much of those particular stops have helped you become who you are, or has helped you become who you are today?
Huge. Been very fortunate and blessed to coach with the people I've been able to coach with. Starting in Cisco with Brent West. What he did at Cisco for all those years and won a state title and played for a lot more, and just the work ethic that he put in and how to make grow kids into men and make them tough, and then being able to go coach for Coach Joseph Gillespie, and now the defensive coordinator at TCU that's undefeated and chance to go to college football playoffs, to watch him and learn from him and see his energy and his passion for the game and for the kids, and just learn as much as I could from him. And then be able to go to Midland Lee and coach with Coach Morton that did a phenomenal job. And so I was very fortunate not only to work with those head coaches, but great staffs, and learn how to put staffs together and how to work with one another. And you got to have a great staff, not just a good coach here or there. You got to have great staffs. And so I was fortunate at a young age to learn from really, really great men and great leaders. And so I was just fortunate to be at the right places at the right time and to be able to learn from some of the best.
So how did you get into coaching? Was that something that was on your mind pretty early?
Yeah, my dad was a coach, and so moved around a little bit. My dad got a job at Breckenridge, and so I went to Breckenridge. And my senior year, this is a little long time ago, but my senior year, we were ranked number 1 in the state in 3A, and we played Monahans in the quarterfinals. We were 12-0 when they were 6-6, and we got beat in the quarterfinals to Monahans my senior year at the playoffs. So, and then went from there to the University of Arizona to play football, and then transferred to Tarleton. So I've played football, been around it with my dad being a coach my whole life. And so I knew that's what I always wanted to do.
Wait a minute. So this week is a little personal too, right? With Monahans?
Actually, my head coach from high school, Ross Dodson, called me last night, and so it's a little personal. We were obviously ranked number 1 in the state and undefeated, and they were 6-6. They started 0-6, won 6 in a row. This team,
wow,
on one hand, started 0-3, won 10 in a row, and so it's a big week for not only our team but me personally, and hopefully get a little payback.
You mentioned in the form that I send you as coaches that annoy the heck out of everybody until I get them all back. But you mentioned keeping coaches in our profession around the state. We know that there's a lot of turmoil when it comes to that. And is it worth it? And the money is not, people might look at some of the schools and head coaches that are paying guys a lot of money. What do you do? What can the state do to make sure that coaches don't go into something else early, and that that you keep them in the profession, the younger coaches?
Right, and I think it starts with the athletic director and head coaches, but also the administration. And that's not only just coaches; it's for teachers. Got to have great support from the top, and treat each other right, and treat the kids right, and have a good experience early on. I think that's the thing. People get into it and have a bad experience to start, and they say, okay, I'm not making much money, and this isn't a good thing anyway. I'm going to get out of this. And so I think it's about treating your coaches right and treating your teachers right, and giving them and being there for them early on, and help them have a good experience from the start.
All right, man. I tell you what, it's been great, Cliff. I've gotten to know you mainly through either text messages or email. I don't get a chance to go to a lot of games because I broadcast my own game, whatever we have each week. And then, of course, with my website, I try to keep up with what's going on. You've always been gracious about that. Again, I know Hudson will get that Built Ford Tough Award here pretty soon. And in my opinion, he should have been a part of the Dave Campbell's semifinalist list as far as Mr. Texas football, but that didn't quite work out. Hey, good luck. Good luck trying to get rid of a demon in my hands from the past and also for this year. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, David. Thanks for having me.
You too, Coach. Good luck. That's Cliff Watkins, head coach at Glen Rose. They have Monahans. How about that? He just threw that nugget in. That Monahans, they've won 10 straight when he was a player at Breckenridge. They were 12-0 against 6-6, and they'd won 6 straight Monahans, and Monahans upset Breckenridge. So a little interesting note there along the way. All right, this is the Statewide High School Football Podcast on 365 Sports and also, of course, powered by Smoaky.com. Now, a rivalry that has blossomed into something special. Grandview and Malakoff, they've met for a state title, but they have had some knockdown, drag-out games, including earlier this year. We will hear from Jamie Driskell, the head coach at Malakoff, and also we'll hear from Ryan Ebner, the head coach at Grandview, and this is 365 Sports.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation. Smoaky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on 365 Sports. Brought to you by Peters Chevrolet, Bubba's 33, TFNB, your bank for life, and Texas Farm Bureau Insurance.
Talk about a program that has been a major part of what's happening, the championship caliber of Texas high school football, and it has come more recently than over the history. Grandview Zebras football, they've been playing the game since back in the early 1900s, but what a run that they're on, and we're joined by their fourth-year head coach, Ryan Ebner, who's won a state championship as a head coach and also as a coordinator on 365 Sports. Are you spoiled, Ryan?
Probably. I'm definitely spoiled with the blessing of being able to work here. I've never coached anywhere else. I've spent all 20 years here at Grandview and started out as a head baseball coach 18 years ago, and then made my way to a coordinator and into the AD/head football coach job. So to me, it's been a blessing as far as just being able to keep your family in one spot. And I live 300 yards from the school, and so to me, just as far as the family aspect and being at a place that you love, and I've never lived anywhere longer than this place. So I feel like it's a truly great fit for me and my family, and I'm just so blessed to be here.
Grandview's been to the playoffs 34 times. There are the 2 state championships, and again, the run recently has been really fantastic. That 08 team with Aubrey Sims went 13-1, but from 1909 until then, there were like 3 teams in Grandview history that won 10 or more games. 1950, 1981, heck, I was in college that time, in 1989. What's changed in your opinion?
Oh, I believe a lot of the things that have come for what's going on in Grandview goes to back when Coach Sims got here. We also had Mr. Schronerhurst as the superintendent, and there's a bunch of coaches that were leaving year to year, and they wanted to keep the same some commitment to the town and the school and things like that. And there come some hard lessons with that. And so they got in here and dug their heels in. I had already been here a year, and actually 2, excuse me. And then it was basically we're going to do it this way, and we feel like we're putting the best athletic program together that we can. And then we were able to start winning, and it basically was we're going to do it our way. We're going to love the kids and give the best to our community, but this is the way we're doing it from this point on. And it worked out for us, and we've kind of changed some things as far as culture-wise, just making sure the weight room is a certain way. And when the work ethic became the main thing, instead of just the games, when all the stuff without the lights happened, I feel like the parents and the kids were really able to grasp the hold of that, and we were able to make a move in that direction.
I always look at someone's past on what they were or how they experienced success, and does that rub off on them as a player, a high school coach, college coach, or player? And your time at Judson, obviously, winning and being a part of state championships, how much did that rub off on you in your opinion?
Oh, it's the whole the whole thing for what we are now. I feel like, when you have somebody like Coach Rutledge, that is one of the greats to ever do it in the state of Texas, and just the passion and commitment and just the expectation he puts on each player. And then when you grow up in that kind of system, from junior high up, that's the expectations you hold on the kids, and you're not going to take anything less. And you're always going to, he used to always say, your mind will tell you to quit before your body actually needs to. And he would grab more and more out of you. And then when you realize that, you start to go, man, what could we really do if we really put our mind to it and our heart into it and really push past the tough times? And so that's kind of the way I think of things around here now. And that's what we would expect from the kids.
Jamie Driscoll and what he has done at Malakoff. I knew his father back when I was younger, many years ago, in television in Lufkin, Nacogdoches. I covered Monty Jack Driscoll, the head coach at Crockett, and, of course, a Hall of Fame type coach as well. And so I knew him. And I know Jamie was a ball boy and all of that growing up, and now he's got coaching in his blood. He's done a great job at Malakoff. This game, this one coming up, another one. You've already played him this year. Dramatic game. I know that Grandview has the edge in this series, but how much do you two push each other to greatness?
I hope quite a bit. We have a lot of conversations about it and a lot of the tough games that we've had. And I feel like we've become really good friends over this whole situation. I know that every time we step on the field, he's trying to kick our butt and we're trying to kick theirs. But we definitely have a mutual respect for each other. We push and pull for each other if we're not playing against each other. And I feel it's not just a deal to win or lose. You're comfortable with each other and like I said, just the willingness to root for that other person. I do believe that every time you go out there, you know each other well. You're not going to be able to bring your same type game plan, the same type things that you've seen in the past. So it pushes you to further your knowledge of what you want to do. And we and the coaches were laughing how far our game plan has gone just because you're having to, play back and forth with somebody with a great program as well. So
this is the actually Grandview leads the series 6-2. The 1990 Malakoff won the first one. That's been a long time ago, and they won 45-0. But since that time, everything else has been since 2018. This is the third time that Malakoff and Grandview will meet for a second time. And that says quite a bit about where these two teams and programs are. You got them earlier this year. Are you better than you were when you had that first win? And are they better? They just beat West, of course, the team that got you in district. Are they better? Can you tell that they're better on film?
Oh, they're definitely better. But that's when you've got good coaches working with good players, there's no doubt that's definitely going to be a thing. It's hard I tell people it's hard for me to see how good you've gotten. Me and my superintendent were talking about it, just because all the things that are going on all the time. I hope that's what everybody sees. That would be a question more for Driscoll as far as us goes. But as far as me looking at them, they've definitely improved throughout the year.
So you won a state championship as a coordinator. You won as a head coach. Grandview, with that unique zebras, which, there's a lot of lions and tigers and bears, oh my, and all that when it comes to nicknames. What does that mascot, that helmet, what does that mean to the kids in the program at Grandview High School?
We go with the slogan of earn your stripes. And so even in the GYAs and the younger levels, they don't get to have them on their helmets. They just put a sticker of a zebra. But we're pretty passionate about earning those stripes. And so it's a big deal when they finally get to put that helmet on their head. And they take a lot of pride in it.
Glen Rose, we had Cliff Watkins on earlier. They're having a great run right now. They've never been past the quarterfinals. They're trying to do that for the first time ever. You met them earlier. You then, the next week, you had that dramatic game with Malakoff. Boy, that's a pretty good start. And you guys you're not afraid to play really elite people in non-district. I've noticed that no matter who's been the head coach. How much did those two games help you find out what you needed to get better at?
Yeah, that's something we try to do in all sports. I think it goes to our culture as far as just when you're playing non-district games, they're there for in my mind, one thing, and that's just to get you better. I know there's a win-loss record that goes with it, but at the end of the day, it doesn't have any playoff implications other than to get yourself better for district and then the run in the playoffs. So that's kind of how we look at that situation.
Can you tell me, and you have a lot of playmakers, but Casey English is someone that I get an email almost every week when I bother you guys about Player of the Week. He's a phenomenal player. He was big in that opening game or that first game with Malakoff. He was big last week. How good of a player is Case in English?
First and foremost, he's a great person and a great leader. He's a guy that leads by example in the classroom as well as the locker room. You know, to me, that's huge. After 20 years, you finally realize how important that is. And when you have a guy that a lot of those guys look up to and lean on to and can be a voice in the locker room without a coach standing in there, that's a huge benefit. And I think that goes a lot of people understand how beneficial a player like that is. It's just as far as on the field, you're talking about a player that, I mean, you put him in any situation, defense, he can lock it side down, in the special teams. I mean, you know, he's an explosive play waiting to happen, and then we can move him around so many different places on the offense. So it's almost, what can't he do? It's kind of what we look at it. And so we try to give a lot of different looks at a lot of different things, and he's always stepped up to that place and does them all really, really well.
What have you learned the most in your 4 years as a head coach, and why are you better as a head coach now than you were that first year, besides, other than the obvious of experience?
Well, I had 14 years as head baseball coach.
Right.
So to me, was stepping in as a head coach, that wasn't new. It's just, you know, when I had always been coaching football. To me, it's just being a head coach. What I've learned over is to me, it's just having the patience to understand the importance of what is important, instead of taking a step back sometimes and going, all right, not taking yourself too seriously, not taking that moment too seriously, and saying what's going to be the best for this situation, and taking a deep breath, and then coming up with the best answer you possibly can for that situation. They're all different, and so I'm not a policy guy. I'm more of let's make the best suggestion, the best answer for this moment. And so to me, it's just having the maturity just to kind of step back and say, all right, let's go with this thought process. For me, has been the biggest thing I've learned over the years.
One more thing, Ryan, and appreciate your time. I know you got to get going, athletic period, and get ready for the game. Who has the advantage in a series that's been so tight? You've won 6 of the 7 recently. Is it the team that's won the game, or the team that maybe is just it's like, man, they just feel like they eventually have to beat Grandview at some point?
I don't live by the theory of whose turn is it. Like it's been this many, because the only way you can do that is play that game right back over with those players in that moment. Everything else is a different situation. To me, when you have 2 good teams, it's whoever takes care of the mistakes. Whoever has the least amount of those in the moment is going to be the one that's going to take a win against 2 really good teams.
Ryan, thank you very much. I know it's a busy schedule for you. Good luck this week, and thanks for your time. Appreciate all the things you do, and I ask you for stuff as well. Have a great weekend, and good luck.
Thank you so much, man. I sure appreciate it as always.
You too. Ryan Ebner, head coach at Grandview and Malakoff. It has been a great series. You heard it from his end. We'll also hear from Jamie Driskell, the head coach at Malakoff, who I knew when he was like an ankle biter. That's next. This is 365 Sports in the Texas High School Football Statewide Podcast.
Yeah! Are y'all ready? What? Yeah! Y'all ready to play some football? If you want it, you can get it. Let me know. I'm about to break this thing up. If you want it, you can get it. Let me know. I'm about to break this thing up. If you want some, come get some.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears!
Smoaky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on 365 Sports. Brought to you by Peters Chevrolet, Bubba's 33, TFNB, your bank for life, and Texas Farm Bureau Insurance.
To put things in perspective about Malakoff, the high school program, which has been in existence forever, 23 playoff appearances, 15 district titles. They had a couple of teams in the 40s that went 11-0 and 10-1, and back then 11-0, that was about all you could do. But from 1947 until 2013, I don't think Malakoff had a team win more than 9 games at any time. And now since that time, they've done it a bunch, and they're playing Grandview again in what has become a great rivalry, as we've talked with Ryan Ebner, and now we talk with Malakoff head coach Jamie Driskell. How you doing, my young? You know, everyone doesn't know this, but I think I knew you when you were like an ankle biter.
Oh, is that right? I guess you were covering my dad.
Yeah, I covered your father, Monty Jacket Crockett. I know that's where you went to high school, and I had a chance to talk with your mother on the phone a little bit. Let's start with that. You grew up in a coaching family. A lot of high school coaches do. What did you learn? What did you watch? How much did that get in your blood watching your father at Crockett and elsewhere?
Well, you just learn, I guess, during football season, it's a grind. And you see, I grew up watching him work and spend the hours and the time and the stress. And, I guess you think you want to do that. And it's what it's all about, though. It's been a good ride. And, of course, I learned a lot from my father.
Did he ever tell you not to get into coaching?
No, he's never been that guy. He, there was a time there I wasn't going to get into the education part, and he supported me. And there was a time that I decided to, and he supported that. So he's never tried to sway either way.
All right, you just came off a great win against West, who had been one of the two teams that beat Grandview this year, Glen Rose the other. And obviously that was a nice win, and you did it 35-14. Why are you better now, besides the obvious of more experience in games? Are you better now than when you played Grandview in week number 2?
We are. And the obvious answer is we've got some games under our belt, and we start some young kids in some important areas, and even on our offensive line, they're not necessarily real young, they're juniors. And just getting them some games under their belt obviously is the obvious answer. But I think that we got a very intelligent team. Our kids are playing really hard. They kind of have their eyes on the prize, I guess you'd say, and they really are focused and are turning in the work. That's about all I can say. They've gotten tons better since we played Grandview the first time. I'm sure Grandview has too. And your team just gets better as the season goes along, and you don't really, while you're in the grind, you don't really realize it.
Yeah, and you played good people at the beginning. Your district, right, with all due respect, it was not really something that pushed you much. I know Teague was a 14-point game, but West Rush, we know how good that team is with Coach Harrison, although they're out. I mentioned Grandview, and then that double overtime at Waco, here in Waco, against Salado that helped prepare you as well. Are you young at the skill position player? Don't you have a young quarterback that's making some plays for you?
We do. Our starting quarterback is Mike Jones. He's a sophomore. Our starting running back's a sophomore. Our starting Mike Backer's a sophomore. And then we have some juniors sprinkled out in there. And then, of course, we have our veteran seniors. And so, yeah, in kind of the high-profile places, we're young, or we were young. And that was probably a factor early. Mike has made, 1,000 strides, and he's got a lot more confidence now, obviously. And that's just what playing games and learning lessons and winning and losing and all that stuff kind of gets you. And he's a grinder, man. And just like our other young kids. And so it's worked out. Our seniors are good leaders, and they've kind of fallen in those footsteps, and just a smart group of kids that they kind of get us. They kind of get what we're trying to do.
Grandview and Malakoff, classics like every time since you started playing again back in 18. Of course, it was an earlier game back in 1990. But these have been for big marbles. This has been for a state championship and advancing and whatever. When I mentioned Grandview and Malakoff, what do you think?
Well, unfortunately, I think they've got our number. They've had our number. Coach Ebner and them do a great job. They obviously have had great players come through there, and their staff is second to none. They do a great job with those kids. And so it's been rough for the Tigers, to be honest with you. And we've had some really good games. All of them have been extremely close, except for the first game that we ever played them back in 2018. And then the state championship game was a lot closer than, I think the final score was 35-21 or something, but it was a lot closer than that throughout the game. And so every game has been a grind. There's been some overtime games and 1-point games and 3-point games and last possession games. It seemed like all of them have done that. So it's going to be a 4-quarter war again. And, hopefully our kids are up for the challenge.
I talked to Ryan about that as well, because you're right. The last 4 times I think you've played, they've been 1-point game or 1-score games, including a blocked field goal or 14-13 and whatever else, and you did get them the second time in 2020. He's not a believer, and I'm not either, that it's just your time. So why is it, if in fact you win this week, is it just because you're better this week?
I want to think so. I don't know. I think that we've made a lot of strides since we played them the last time. Our specific team we've gotten a ton better. Again, I know that they have too, and so it's about matchups and what we try to exploit and what they try to exploit, and obviously case and English for them is a huge factor in the game, and he's such a good player, man. He's a head and above shoulders, above a lot of kids that he plays against. And so, it's going to be about managing him and getting them figured out. And so hopefully this is our year and we can figure those guys out, get after them and come out on top.
You have had, since the first year at Malakoff in 2009, there's a couple of years that you probably would like to have played longer, probably a lot of years, but I mean, you started winning immediately. The first year you made the playoffs and lost, but you turned this thing around. Why? How did you do it? Malakoff had been okay, hit and miss on occasion. Right. Why the consistency and the elite level that you've been playing on since you arrived there?
Going back to the first year, the kids we had some talent. They just didn't know how to win, and we were fortunate enough to win the first few games. And then we were in a strange situation. Only 3 teams made it then. And the last game of the year, we had lost one district game. In the last game of the year, if we won that game, we were district champs. If we lost that game, we were going to be 4th and out. And that particular game was Kearns, who was in our district at the time. And Malakoff hadn't beaten Kearns in like 18 or 19 years. And so it was a whole lot riding on that last game of the year that year. And so we were fortunate enough to win that game. And we had some games throughout that season that kind of catapulted us up at another level. And so since that first year, even though we didn't win a playoff game for a year or two, the kids have kind of bought in. And we've tweaked our offseason to fit what we need to do and address problems that we have or deficiencies that we have with our kids. And our kids have bought in, and whatever we ask them to do, for the most part, they do it, especially these last few years. And it's a tribute to the kids. I mean, they come to athletics every day and they work extremely hard. They don't know anything else. And I think that's probably the factor.
You have coached in East Texas, basically, and I know Malakoff's a little bit to the north part, and Livingston's down more the south, but right. Palestine, Crockett, Groveton, Livingston, Westwood, and Palestine, and now Malakoff. That's just the piney woods are just in your blood, right?
That's all I know. I'm not smart enough to branch out too much further.
It's like if you go a little bit further west, it's almost as if, oh my God, it's like another country or something. And
well, yeah, I guess I got to have pine trees around me or something. I don't know.
All right. So your father has his name on the stadium at Crockett. You're still very young. With what you're doing there, you ever think does that mean anything to you, that maybe at some point people look at you at Malakoff the way they looked at your dad at Crockett?
There's people that support us 100%. There's people that don't. And, I've kind of learned in this position that you're not going to make everybody happy. And, we've been successful, been fortunate enough to be successful. That don't mean we've been perfect. That don't mean that I or the staff hadn't made mistakes, but this is a staff thing. We got, coach of the week this past week, the Dave Campbell's coach of the week deal. It needs to be staff of the week. My staff second to none. And so, yeah, it's pretty cool to be mentioned with that sort of thing and all that stuff. It's things like that. You kind of let the season get over with and look back and see what you've done and all that. But right now we're in the grind of this deal. And we, the only thing that exists for us right now is Grandview. As far as stadiums and names and this, that, and the other, we got to zone in on what we're doing.
All right. What's more annoying for you, Grandview, or for me driving through Malakoff and having to dodge that guy who stops people for going 5 miles over the line, the speed limit?
Well, I got a little bit of road rage. That would get on my nerves. So, but I got to go with me and Grandview. Coach Ebner gets on my nerves.
Yeah, I know. What would getting past them? You've done it before in 20, right. I think it was. But this year with this team, and as good as they are and as good as you are, and we know 3A Division I is solid, what would it mean to win that game this week?
Huge. Last week was huge getting by West. West beat us out last year, and so it would be huge to beat Grandview because it has been a rivalry, and every game's been close and a tight, hard-fought game and all that. And so it would be huge to beat them. And so, what we told the kids after the game the other night is it's a huge win. Enjoy it this weekend, but come Monday, it's back to work. And we can enjoy all this, later down the road maybe. But it's about this week and getting after these guys this week.
Thank you, man. Hey, good luck. I love what you've done at Malakoff. It's been great, the 14 years. And again, just the lineage of what the Driscoll families meant to Texas high school football. Had a chance to talk to your mother a little bit on the phone. What a wonderful, sweet woman. And, of course, your dad, Monty, as well. Thanks for your time, and good luck this week against Grandview. Appreciate it, Jamie.
Thank you so much for the coverage and appreciate it, man. Good to see you again.
You too, buddy. You too as well. It's Grandview and Malakoff in a great game in 3A Division I. And I mean, the series has been phenomenal since they got back together again in 2018. Third time since then that they've played twice in 1 year. Earlier, 21-17 Grandview earlier this year. All right, coming up next, we're going to hear, again, the best games. Which are the better games this week, including, of course, the one we just featured, Malakoff and Grandview. And this is the Texas High School Football Scoreboard Show and also High School Weekly Podcast powered by 365 Sports and Smoaky.com.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Smoaky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on 365 Sports. Brought to you by Peters Chevrolet, Bubba's 33, TFNB Your Bank for Life, and Texas Farm Bureau Insurance.
Here's our final segment today. This is week 15 of the Texas high school football season and the quarterfinal round. Again, I mentioned in Class 6-man or Class 1A, they're in the semifinals this week and then get a break and then eventually the state championship week at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Also, the list came out for the semifinalist or the list of who is up for Mr. Texas football when it comes to Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine. There are a bunch of names. Let's put the graphic up. And it starts at the very top. Austin Novosad, he's a Baylor commit. Dripping Springs High School's taken them a long, long way. And he is a part of that list. There are 3 players who are committed to Baylor on this list, and maybe 1 or 2 others that eventually maybe sign with Baylor. But Novosad from Dripping Springs. Bryson Washington is the list 6th down, the running back from defending state champion Franklin. And then also right below him, 2 down from that, Dawson Pendergrass, who does everything or did everything, put up record-breaking numbers throughout his career in every position, defense, offense, every position on offense. He's also on that list from Mineola, committed to Baylor. There are some other ones. The second name, Chase McCollum, the quarterback, transfer quarterback, came in from Wimberley, has helped China Spring do what they're doing, and, of course, right now they're the favorites to win in 4A Division I. Dalton Brooks from Shiner. He's right between Washington and Pendergrass, has had a great career. I love this kid, Mackenzie McGill, the running back from Mount Vernon. Owen Allen's a tough running back, South Lake Carroll. There's Sanford from Harker Heights. I mentioned him. Ruben Owens, El Campo, they're out. He's the one committed to Louisville. And then you go a couple of more, not to try to overlook anybody. Taylor Tatum, the running back from Longview. And they have a game with Timberview. I'll get to that in a second. John Tay Cook from DeSoto, committed to Texas. So you have all these names. It's going to be it's going to be hard. Colton Vosick, who was a commitment to Oklahoma, now a UT commit. At the bottom, I mentioned Timpson's Terry Bussey. This guy is a fantastic player, and he is also a part of a big list for for Dave Campbell's Mr. Texas Football, and of course that will come out a little bit later on. Last year, Major Bowden, the quarterback of a state champion China Spring, was Mr. Texas Football, and now this year the China Spring quarterback in Chase McCollum. Now, the best games of the week. This is according to pigskinprep.com, my good friend Jerry Forrest. The number on the right, the red number, the lower the number, the more elite that game is based on his index of every classification. Go down a little bit. There's that game I mentioned, Pleasant Grove and Carthage. They've met before. That's East Texas. Carthage, the favorite right there. Josh Gibson does a great job, Pleasant Grove, and, of course, Scott Surratt with all the state championships at Carthage. Then a couple of down, Shiner and Refugio. This was a matter of just a collision course. They both had losses, I think, even the first week, and then Shiner had one more. This ought to be a great game. That's just a great football game to look forward to. Mart unbeaten. Lovelady, what a run it's been for Will Kirchhoff. That's a game in Class 2A. Nobody has given Mart much at all of any kind of problem. And here they are playing again in the quarterfinal round. Now, to the second page of this. Centennial and Aledo. Aledo, again, here they go again. Had that nice win against Midlothian. They'll get really tested here. A couple of three down in Class 3A, that's the game we're about to feature, or featured earlier, Grandview, Malakoff. Hey, how about Toller and Crawford? Wow, 2 13-0s in 2A Division I. This was a matter of time. Marlin, of course, was pretty good. Toller hammered them. Crawford keeps rolling. They just won 41-6 against Riesel. That is a great football game in 2A or any classification. Timberview and Longview, a matter of time before they were going to meet, and here they are with that one. There's the district rematch with North Shore and Atascocita we mentioned earlier. And then on the third page, a couple of games of interest. Geyer and South Lake Carroll. Wow. Owen Allen, a running back from South Lake Carroll. Arnold, the quarterback who's going to Oklahoma from Geyer. I just can't wait to watch how that game goes down. And then there's that Duncanville and Westfield. Not many teams in the state of Texas have the kind of overall depth and talent and playmakers and even the big boys up front like Duncanville does on either side of the offensive and defensive line. Westfield's probably one of the few that has a chance to play with them a little bit, but Duncanville still, man, their defense does not get enough credit for what they've done this year as they held the Woodlands to just 2 points last week. Chapel Hill, Kilgore, they're basically, Chapel Hill's on the east side of Tyler. Kilgore, of course, is like 25 miles away, if that long. They're going to play again. And then down the list, Wellington and New Home, and then Collinsville and Albany. These are the elite games based on the index of Jerry Forrest and pigskinprep.com. All right, thanks to Jacob Wilson, who runs the mothership for us every single week, our sponsors and what they do with us and for us every single week. We have 2 more shows to go. This is the quarterfinal round, except 6-man. They're in the semis. So we have 2 more shows to go. Who's going to survive what will be a tremendous week, I think, with some great matchups? Collision course games, including the ones we featured, including that Grandview Malakoff game. I'm David Smoke. Thank you for being a part of it. Please like the channel. Spread the word. This is 365 Sports and the high school football, again, weekly podcast, also sponsored and brought to you by Smoaky.com. Battle in the gun with Hill to his right. Play action to the right. Steps up, throws over the middle. He's got Thornton. Caught it! Junior Thornton. Split. 6. Touchdown. Midway.
Smoaky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on Sikkim 365 Radio. Brought to you by Peters Chevrolet, Bubba's 33, TFNB, your bank for life, and Texas Farm Bureau Insurance.
Hill, right side, finds a seam. Hill, 20. Hill, 10. Hill, touchdown. Midway, no flags. Midway takes the lead by more than 1 score. And how about the Big Uglies inside?